of my 20-year dreams was to take a stab at being a stand-up comedian. And there were many ways of doing it. There was being a part of family events and emceeing for things and, you know, doing the one-liners, which is super, super easy. And then also doing it around those who think you're funny already anyway is super easy. The challenge was I had a very low self-esteem for those 20 years, so it never gave me the courage or the foundation to actually take action on one of the dreams that I had. So as these years have gone by and I've gone through a lot of healing and a lot of, you know, setting the foundation for a stronger way of living, it has given me the confidence that I need to be able to share part of my personal journey with you and hopefully get a few laughs as a result of it. I'm just hoping. So
Hope you're nervous.
it's not that I'm sweating profusely. It's not that I've already wet my pants and that I've cried for 5 hours when my uncle might be forgetting here, because truly I did. What I have learned in life is that what doesn't kill you definitely fucking makes you stronger. And as many of you know, I'm adopted, and I was the result of a one-night stand. And you wonder, wow, the Pillon got down. No. I was given up for adoption. My mother had me at 16. She allegedly had sex with another Native American, and he was Sioux and Cochin, and he was Cochin and Blackfoot, and she was Sioux, or is Sioux. And so all my life I grew up thinking I was all Native American and woo, you know, one of these, not one of these. And so I grew up in a family of definite sibling rivalry for many, many reasons. One, because there were so many of us. So when I came aboard, I was 6 weeks old. My mother had given me up for adoption, and I was adopted through Catholic Charity Services in Seattle to the Pillon family. And my father was a professor up in Seattle. My mom at that point had 5 boys at home.
Ooh.
And either she was desperate to get some girl power in there, or she just wanted a slave. I haven't figured it out yet. But so when I came on board at 6 weeks, I was aware enough to know that I didn't belong here. Like, who are these people? And I didn't like it. I didn't want to be there. I didn't speak. I literally cried, slept, and ate. Cried, slept, and ate. And as many as you know, those last 4 years have been exactly what my life has been to recover from this trauma. But so I, as a young, probably 2-year-old, didn't speak, didn't say mama, didn't say dada. I think that my parents thought there might be something wrong with me. And I had brothers that, you know, were basically trying to teach me how to speak. And I just didn't say anything. So one day we were all sitting around in the living room, and my brothers were playing with me, and I was in the middle, and I grabbed a toy out of my brother's hand, and I said, "It's mine, I had it first." So it wasn't it wasn't a word, it wasn't "I love you," it's mine, I had it first. And what I learned from that moment on is literally that's how we as siblings lived our lives. Like, it was survival of the fittest. Like, if we had it first, whether it was the first meal, the last meal, first one to the bathroom, first one to the shower, it was ours for as long as we decided it was going to be until that door got pounded down. So as there were 6 of us, our family then grew to, some say 10 and others say 11, because many years later we added Natalie to that group. So technically there's 10, but we do have 11 in our adopted family. And 6 are natural, 5, if I'm good at math, which I'm not, I'm like 5, 6, yeah. So 6 are natural, 5 are adopted. And what I learned very early on was the only way to survive some of the struggles and challenges that we were not only exposed to, but then had to live through was through humor. And so another way that I survived was by bullying my friends and all of their friends. And And so, and the reality of it is I did it for attention. So we grew up actually up the hill. And so we went to Grant Elementary, and there's this kid named Farley. And so if you can think of any names that kind of would rhyme with that, I would skip down Sheridan Avenue, Farley, big fat Farley. And I just did it to be mean, to get attention. And so for those people who wonder why children bully, it's not because they're mean-hearted. It's not because, there's something wrong with them. They just want attention. And so the attention that I got was everybody laughed as a result of it. So then I quickly learned that laughter was then the next course of action. So then in 7th grade, I began to do my full-on bullying, which was over at Roosevelt Junior High, which is adjacent to the San Diego Zoo. And we used to run track around the like right near the zoo. Do you remember that, Stacy? And so we would have PE, we'd have to run around the track. So Lisa Piggott was my next victim. And I tortured that girl like nobody's business. And I did it because I was bigger than her. I did it because I had anger in me. I did it because I knew that no one was going to stop me. And so as she was running track, I'd kick out my foot and down she would go. And she would come up with just skin knees and all that gravel. And for a good month or so, she never said a word. So it progressed. So after the gym class, after we did our running, we'd have to go back to the gym locker and, change into our clothes. Well, then her head just went into the toilet, and I started giving her whirlies.
It just went into the toilet.
And the sad thing is, no one said anything, no one stopped me, and of course it was fucking funny. So Stacy is here to attest that she's fine. I don't know that she is. I don't know that she is. But anyway, so after about a month of that torture, she finally told someone. That someone called my mother, and my mother fucking hauled me out of that school by my hair, never to be seen again by Lisa Piggott, and she put me in private school.
Oh boy.
And I had to pay for half of it, so I had to paper out at age 14, and I babysat after school, and I had to pay for half of Our Lady of Peace, which is very expensive, and it was my punishment for bullying Big Fat Farley and Lisa Piggott. So if I saw them today, I don't think I would apologize because I think I had punishment enough, and I think my bank account is still empty as a result of that. So then, shortly after that, I think I got my mother's message, and I kind of like acquiesced and behaved and wore my, OLP skirt. It was all girls, until probably the last semester of I think it was my sophomore year. I was struggling. I wasn't doing well. I was just fighting for food and beating people up, secretly, not getting caught. And I wasn't doing well in school, which
Not confession.
yeah,
It's not a confession.
that'll be on Sunday. So I remember thinking things aren't going well, and something bad is going to happen. And sure enough, it did. So for whatever reason, I decided to cheat on one of my exams. And of all exams in the world that you had to take, one would think you wouldn't have to cheat on a morality test. And the bitch that ratted me out got hers at the end of the day. But what I had written all under my little yellow sleeve were answers to things I should have already known. For example, be kind to others. What would you do if an old lady was crossing the street? I mean, things that you would think would be up here, but I wasn't raised that way. My parents were honest. So we were in the thick of fucking thieves, man. We had survived. So our way of doing it was fuck you, I'm taking it, it's mine, I had it first. And so it was never, I will tell you to this day, I will never regret cheating on that test because I survived, I did what I had to do, and I still passed, and the following year my parents stopped wasting their money and put me in public school. Diego High, which, if any of you are familiar with, it's probably at the time was probably one of the, I don't know, I guess Jamie, what would you say, like riskiest schools in San Diego, where there was like fights in the middle of the street.
Where you belong.
Which is funny that you should say that, because the first week I was there, some girl came up and just fucking checked me and threw me up against the locker, and she said, "You looking at my man?" I said, "No, I'm not looking at your man." "What? What's wrong with my man?" Nothing's wrong with your man. Don't be looking at my man. And so from that point on, I learned there's nothing I could say that would have gotten me out of what I was trying to get out of. And I got beat up several times that year. But you can be rest assured, I never bullied again.
Yay. Good job.
So, I also that year had a very life-changing moment. I met and fell in love with my high school sweetheart, which is now the man who I loathe, hate, and if I saw him on the street, I would knock his dick in the dirt, kick him in the balls, and just tromp over him as I walked away. But at the time, I truly was in love. And I think what it was, and looking back on it, I think really what it was is that someone was paying attention to me.
Yeah.
That I finally was being satiated with. Our first date was at Jack in the Box. So we never ate fast food. We did not, I mean, the idea of fast food in our household of 11 didn't exist. So he took me down out to Jack in the Box after our party that we went to broke up. And I stood there like looking at this like huge like menu. What do I order? Like I couldn't read it. And I was like, it was like, you know, hysteria. And he goes, "You can have And I was like, "Will you marry me?" 3 months later, I was pregnant. Now, not with Jack and Box baby, with a real baby. That fall, actually, we were moving to Madrid for a year, and my parents did not know that I was pregnant. The only people that knew was baby daddy and myself. And I'd just gone to Planned Parenthood the week before I left. So there were no options. There wasn't really going to be one anyway. Whatever was in there was staying, if it was going to be okay. And I was on my way to Spain. So I contemplated so many times telling my mother, who randomly just beat the shit out of me just for like ditching class. So imagine me coming to her saying, "Mom, I'm having a baby." That wasn't going to happen. So I went an entire pregnancy from the moment of conception till the night or the morning I went into labor with no one in that household of 10 people knowing I was pregnant. And I'm going to cry because it was a very difficult time. But what it taught me is that God has a plan for everyone. And that little lady of Spain came to me to save me and make me live for her and to give her the life that I wasn't able to have been given, that my adopted mother wanted to give for me and gave me up hoping I would have a better life. That I then was able to use this as my healing and my mechanism of finding love. And she's not here today because she'll be here on Friday, but that child is amazing. She's funny, she's smart, she's bitchy.
No.
She's just like her mom. What happened when I went into labor is we had this big long hallway. And at the time I think there was probably 7 of us in Spain. And it was like a big, very large apartment. And I shared a room with my sister Katie, and I woke up and I was like, "Oh fuck." And I was like, "Oh shit, how am I gonna do this?" I was gonna literally like run away and have the kid come back and be like, "Hey," you know, I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do because again, what the fuck was I gonna do? And so I'm like contemplating it. So finally, I tell my 11-year-old sister, "Go wake mom and dad up." "Why?" And I go, "I'm having a baby." And she goes, "You're what?" And I said, "Go get mom and dad and tell them Maria is having a baby. And so she's just tiny, short hair, and she's just frail. She goes running down the hall, and so she tells my mom, and my mom goes, she's just dreaming. She's having a dream. And so then she goes to my dad, says the same thing. And my dad's like, ay, Nikita, go back to bed, so no one believes me. So then Katie ends up waking my brother Jamie. And Jamie's like, what the fuck? So next thing you know, I have all the doctors in my room and literally lifting up my sweatshirt, and there was 9 pounds in there that they had never seen before. When she was born, she weighed 9 pounds.
Wow.
So imagine the realization of everything that happened and the reality had hit Jamie, my dad, my mom, they all sprung into action and they were ready. My mom had so many fucking kids, she knew what to do. And we were all used to it, right? So it was just a different person. And so my youngest sister, Raquel, had this curly black jet hair, and she was just ringlets of beautiful hair, and she was skipping down the hall. Maria's having a baby! Maria's having a baby! And so off they rushed me to the hospital, and I remember going down the elevator, and my dad was hanging on to me, and he was telling me in Spanish, Nikita, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. I'm like, Dad, I have to poop. I have to poop, it's gonna come out. And he goes, Nikita, that's the baby coming. Let it go. So we get to the hospital, and again, in Spain, things are much different. This was many years ago, now in fact 30-something years ago, 35 years ago, and things were just different. And only the father was allowed in the delivery room, and clearly, Jim Backer was nowhere to be found. Not that he should have been, because I was in Spain and he was here. So I go into the delivery room by myself. They wouldn't let my mother in, they wouldn't let my father in. And if any of you motherfuckers know what an episiotomy is, no 16-year-old child should ever have to experience it in another country, not knowing what it was, and then have Dr. Madrigal spell her fucking name as she slit me open. And that's exactly what happened. And out came Alexi Backer. Out came Alexi Backer, 9 pounds. So, as a result of her, I wasn't smart enough to learn about birth control. And 2 years later, I gave birth to my son on my 19th birthday. So, needless to say, I like to learn things the hard way. Now, I will add to the story that both of my children have truly been the foundation, my rocks, my ability to want to achieve more, to want to continue to strive to be a better person, to learn from my mistakes, and to hopefully encourage them to be the best that they can be. And during that time, there were so many, I'm going to share so many stories about just funny, moments and things that they did, but we had this dog, Billy, that really kind of held the core of our family together as it was starting to fall apart, because we just weren't meant to be anymore, and we were trying to keep a family together that didn't belong together anymore. And Billy it was almost as if he was human. I swear that dog just knew. He just knew. He was a yellow lab. We got him, and he was very easily trained. As you know, labs are really, really smart. And that dog would listen. He was loyal. He was by the door. He was at your side. He knew if you needed him. There was one exception to that rule, and if there was any food within 1 iota of a reach, a sniff, it was gone. That dog turned into a seal. He would reach his body up. He literally would jump through doors to get to the fish cooking on the grill. He once ate a whole pound of butter that I had out, that I was going to make cookies with, and he ate the whole thing, and he vomited all over our brand new carpet for days. And the carpet was beige, so, it kind of blended. It wasn't too bad. Then he got to the chocolate chip cookies, which, as you know, chocolate chips and any chocolate is really bad for most dogs. And we pretty much almost lost him at that point, and we were lucky that he only ate half a pound versus a whole pound. And then the kicker was, about a year later, he was getting older, he's kind of slowing down, and there wasn't many food options for him because we learned our lessons, but he stopped eating, and we got really worried. We were worried there's a reason. I mean, dogs love to eat. He wasn't going to the bathroom, and he was just like, you could just tell he was in pain. So we knew he'd gotten to something, we just didn't know what. And so one day goes by, we just give him some water, he'll be okay. We don't want to pay for the vet bill, he'll be okay. Take him for a walk, it might come out, he'll be okay. So the third day goes by, we're like, fuck man, this dog ain't moving, there's something wrong. So I called, made an appointment for the vet, went to work that morning, and Michael Backer, my son, calls me. We call him Michael Backer, I'll tell you why later. But so he calls me, he goes, Mom, guess what? And I go, what? He goes, Billy's okay. And I go, he is? What? He goes, Mom, he vomited it all up. And I go, what? Michael, what was it? He goes, it was 2 pairs of Alexi's panties intertwined. And he barfed them up. And I go, thank fucking God, Michael, because if they were mine, he'd be dead. So I truly have a lot more to say. There's many pages, but I think it was a good start for me. It was a little emotional because there's things that I've shared with you that really no one else knows. And I share them with you because you guys all mean something to me in all your individual ways, and you're here today because Julie and everyone was so wonderful to put it together, and it means so much that you're here. My uncle came, my brother Jamie came, and then everyone else who, after a long, hard day of work, decided to come and celebrate with Rhea from the block. Thank you.